Hey everybody, this is an orientation for students who are enrolled in classes that have a service requirement or a service option. I'm Brian McHarg. I direct academic civic engagement in the ACT office. The ACT office is on the first floor of the Student Union on the east side of the building. That's the opposite side of the bookstore, right there by Summit Circle. If you come in from the Summit Circle side, we're right there on the left, and we'd love to see you if you ever need help or just want to chat about things related to service. This orientation should go over some tips, and this is largely feedback that we've received from our agencies, things that they wish that we told you, and so that's what we're doing through this video. The details of your service project you will want to work out with your professor. So the number of hours that you have to do, when you have to complete those hours by, the way that you think about or analyze that experience, and where you can go, that's all up to your professor. And so you will want to talk to him or her about that. But these video just share some tips of some things that our agency partners have asked that we tell you. We've got some top 10 tips here, and the first one is to please do not procrastinate. Please get working on your service project right away, as soon as you're finished with this video. It is not happens every so often that a student will run into the ACT office at the end of the semester and say, I've got to do 48 hours by tomorrow. And by then it's too late for them to do their 48 hours of service. They have waited too long in the semester. Our agencies are really busy. They're a bit overworked, and moreover, we have over 600 App State students who are engaged in service in the local community. So our partners are getting all kinds of solicitations right now for on the part of students for looking for service placements. So you don't want to wait too long and sort of get behind everyone else. If you were to wait a couple of weeks until you decide where it is that you are going to go or how you're going to do your service, it could be that you hit them at an inopportune time, that is your agency. Maybe the person you need to talk to is on vacation by the time you get around to talking with them, and they need, it might be a week or two until they come back, and then they're backed up on their work, and next thing you know, you're several weeks behind the 8 ball. So you just want to make sure that you get going on this right away. Please do not procrastinate. 2, communicate as much as possible with your agency, with your professor, and so on. Talk about what your hopes, your expectations are, what your learning objectives are, and listen to them in terms of what they expect of you. If you don't listen to them and they don't listen to you, that's almost a guaranteed recipe for a bad experience for both of you all. I used to work down in Florida at a small college down in the Tampa Bay region, and I did a very similar work there. There in St. Petersburg, Florida, where I work, there's a large children's hospital. Serves the entire Gulf Coast of that state with children coming from all up and down the Gulf Coast. Very large place that students very often wanted to volunteer at that hospital. Unfortunately, there were 2 different expectations. A lot of times students thought that they might be, as part of their work, like shadowing a doctor or even handing an instrument in surgery to the surgeon. That was never going to happen. The hospital, on the other hand, needed some clerical support. They needed students to stuff envelopes and help with filing, not exactly the most exciting work. And so what I used to always tell students is, well, just communicate as much as possible what your hopes are and expectations are, and listen to them and see if you all can reach an agreement. And sure enough, often the student would say, listen, I know I can't do what I thought, but maybe could I read to children who are sort of bedridden? And the hospital would be like, yeah, you can do that. Maybe we can get a couple of hours of envelope stuffing first, and then in the last hour of your service, go up there and let's read to these kids. But that wasn't going to happen unless the student communicated. So just make sure that you do that with your agency. Agencies are really busy, so if you don't hear back from them at first, you might want to be a little persistent. You might need to be a little persistent. At a time, at a point, it's maybe a good idea to go ahead and call if they don't immediately respond to your emails. Make use of the ACT office's resources. All kinds of people in there who want to help you out, and there's students who are themselves engaged in service and can help you brainstorm about ways to get plugged into the local community. They know all kinds of agencies where you can go. They know what's out in the community. And any of the staff or graduate assistants that are in there, if you just want to think and talk about service and what it might mean in your life, we'd love to have those conversations with you. Please research the agency's mission statement before going. This is something we've heard from our community partners. It is not uncommon for a student to show up to the Western Youth Network and somehow be surprised that they are going to be working with youth that are there. This happens from time to time. So it's a good idea to check out the agency, look on the web to find out what their mission is, find out the work that they do, and that can help you to be much more prepared. Please act maturely, responsibly, professionally, show up regularly, and on time. One of the bits of information that we consistently hear from our agency partners is that they love App State students, but they are very, very frustrated when an App State student will reach out to them and say, you know, maybe I've got to do 20 hours of service or 15 hours of service, whatever the case may be. And the agency gets all ready for that student to come for those hours. Maybe they plan a project for that student to do or tell their clients that an App State student is going to come, and then the student never shows. This really frustrates our agencies. Now listen, life happens. Stuff happens, especially in the coronavirus world that we're living in now. And so plans can change, right? But if that happens, if you have to switch agencies or even drop the class or something like that, please let your agency know so they don't think that you're going to continue to come. That should be like the one last thing of courtesy that you do to that agency if circumstances were to change with your service project. Please be confidential about names and places that you encounter in your service project. You want to be cautious about how you share that with the rest of your class. Now, I would suggest talking with your professor about the ethical standards of your discipline or the discipline of this class or your profession, and see how it is that you're supposed to share if there's confidential information that needs to be discussed in a paper or in class discussion. What you don't want to do is come to class one day and say, well, yeah, I'm doing my volunteer work up at, Watauga High School. I've been tutoring Billy, but Billy's not doing so good in his school lately. You know, his parents are going through a divorce. Ooh, well, maybe somebody in the class knows Billy and his parents didn't know they were going through a divorce, and suddenly scandalous. You've just shared some information that you might not have, maybe shouldn't have, and so we want to be cautious about that. Our agencies have asked you to be proactive, and this is going to be a better experience for you anyways in your project. So if you accomplish the work that you're supposed to do on a given shift, see if there's something else that you can do. This, by the way, is good advice for life anyways. And then the thing that our agencies often tell us is please tell students to mind the use of phones. I had to go up to the Hospitality House not that long ago. It's an agency that, among other things, helps homeless citizens up here in the high country. And I was due to meet a staff member, and I walked into the front area, and I noticed an App State student working the reception area. But for a full minute, maybe longer, he was just sort of tapping away there on his phone and looking at something on his phone, sending a text. And I waited for a while to say that I was there to meet the person I was there to talk to. And I thought about that. I was like, well, I don't care about me. I don't matter. But if I were a client there and I'm a person down on my luck and kind of kicked around by the world, and I come in and someone's just sort of tapping away on their phone, I think that's a kind of disrespect. So we want to be careful about that, right? So agencies have asked us to be mindful of our phone use while we're working. Okay, this is our little statement here about being safe and uncomfortable, right? And the essence of this, you can read it here, is that if you are uncomfortable or feel unsafe, you have the freedom to leave the agency, right? To leave the environment where you are. Talk to the ACT office and talk to your professor, reach out to the agency in some other way and let them know that you didn't feel safe there. But you shouldn't feel obligated to stick around if you are in some kind of jeopardy. Now we have there, if at any time you feel uncomfortable, and maybe we ought to change that wording, because the fact of the matter is you might work in an agency where you do feel a little uncomfortable in a good kind of way. Maybe you're around people who are different than you, or working with a population that you're just not used to working with, or in an environment that you're not used to working with. And at times that can give us discomfort, but that's the good kind of discomfort. I think you know the kind of uncomfortableness or discomfort that I'm talking about here, and certainly the lack of safety. And that relates to our COVID environment as well. So there's all kinds of additional challenges that are happening, but also opportunities. But if you don't feel safe because of a COVID situation at your agency, you don't feel like they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, please talk with your professor or talk to us in the ACT office, and we can go from there. But don't feel that you have to go to or are obligated to stay in an environment where you're not safe. Here's our last little thing in terms of the top 10 tips. Remember, your service learning project is not about you. It's about others. It could be that maybe you want to tutor kids up at the Western Youth Network and you want to help them, be better writers or to work on their math or something like that, or just mentor them. But when you go up there, they hand you a toilet brush and they say, well, we need you to clean the toilet. And the fact of the matter is kids need to be proud about where they get their education and they need clean bathrooms. And so we remember, right, that service learning it's not about us, it's about others. And so we bear that in mind as we try to be flexible and move forward in our service. If you need help finding your agency, it could be that your partner has required that you go to a certain location, but if not, you just need to search a place. You can enter this in volunteer.appstate.edu, and that will redirect you to the site that lists all of the agencies that are in town where you might be able to want to connect, and you can do some searching there and browsing and find an agency that meets your needs and the needs of this class. I need to mention this because this is something that our community partners have asked that I share, and that regards to how we communicate with our community partners. It is not uncommon for some of our community partners to receive an email that looks more like a text. It says something like, help, need service. And, and that's it. That's all that's in there. And so the agency is understandably confused by that. And so this part here just sort of shows what we need to put into a good email, right? Make sure that we've got a subject line. Dear Miss Julie Costanza, or to the volunteer director at Hospitality House, or to whom it may regard. My name is Aaron what's his name, and I'm taking this class, and what it is that the class is about. I would suggest that you include 3 very important pieces of information. 1, what is the class, and what is it that you're supposed to learn in that class? There's a huge difference if someone's going to the Hunger and Health Coalition, if they are a nutrition student. Their work might be a little bit different than a student who's studying history. Maybe we've got a history class that studies Karl Marx and sends students to an agency. Very different educational outcomes there and expectations. So you want to be clear about that. So what class you're taking, you want to tell them the number of hours that you need to fulfill for that class. Then the agency doesn't think that you are volunteering for 100 hours if you just have to do 15. And if you have to do just 15 hours, they're not going to make you do a 10-hour orientation. That'll be very clear to them. And then third, you want to let them know when your service project should end. What's the last date of the semester where you will be there. And they don't think that you are going to be volunteering with them for the next 4 years or something, but they'll know that you have to just do a limited number of hours by a certain time, and they'll help you with that. Oh, okay, this next slide. I hate to have to show this slide, but this is something that our agency partners have asked that we talk to you all about, and that's about sort of dressing appropriately when we go to our agencies. If you go to your local bank, you'll notice how the people dress at the bank. They dress nicely, shirt, tie, or a nice outfit or whatever. And that's because they're working with your money, and your money is important. But I would suggest that clients that are given agencies, maybe they're more important than money, and so we dress appropriately. Now, obviously, let's be smart about this, right? So if you're shooting basketball with some kids at an after-school program, you don't want to wear a shirt and tie, clearly. Or if you're doing some environmental work and slogging through a creek or something like that, you're not going to dress all fancy. But just talk to the agency about that, or look to see how the professional staff at the agency dress, and you'll want to mirror something like that. This is just information that they have asked us to share with you, and so we are conveying that message on their behalf about this. Okay. We would love to get to know you. These are our graduate assistants in academic civic engagement this year. Megan Ashelman, come by and see her. She's in education, working on a master's in special education. And Angela Eccles, who's coming back. She's a GA working in public administration and nonprofit management. And then there's me. You're welcome to say hi to me if you see me around campus or in the union or anywhere else coming and going. So I'd love to talk with you a little bit more about your interest in service. So all best wishes as you move forward with your project. If there's any way that I or the ACT office can be helpful to you, don't hesitate to reach out. And good luck.